As Matthew said, I started out looking at the red zone sort of 6 months ago, and I got involved with this swarm planning idea, and then of trying to zero in on a site. And I spent a lot of time on that. It was useful. And then I kind of started looking at making a safe retreat zone in the red zone for further events, which wasn't a waste of time either. But I'm now looking at that 1,000 acres there, somewhere in there, making a commemorative landscape honoring displaced people. Mainly because in Christchurch, as you know, there were 6,000 families booted out, and collectively how that, the sort of pain of losing your place on the land, it creates a collective, I want to say vibe, but there's a feeling that's very sad there. Yeah, that would be good, actually. So when you do go to the red zone, I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but I think it's probably anyone. It has a very sad, empty feeling. It doesn't feel particularly safe because it is abandoned and it's vast. There's a sense of loss, and it's very disorientating when you're in there because there's no landmarks anymore. Just it's a large, grassy, kind of banged up landscape. So anyway, the research question now is, are we actually being honest about commemorating a disaster by changing the landscape into something that makes us forget the disaster? And because of that feeling of all those families losing their place on the land, I'm not so sure we want to just wipe it clean and just say, oh, well, move on. Because there's a lot of deep feelings there. And I mean, I'm an immigrant. I've been here for 25 years. But when you immigrate, you choose to displace yourself from your place on the land. I mean, I have a place on the land, and it's, you know, in New York. But I have a place on the land here, too, now, because, yeah, that's what it is. When you leave your home, you go somewhere else and make another home. Anyway, to drill down, how do we do this? How do we commemorate landscapes that can heal people by telling the real story, not by glossing over? So then I started looking at what does a commemorative landscape look like. I mean, this is the memorial wall they're proposing in Christchurch. So again, list of names on a wall. I mean, we do know people who died in that earthquake, and I'm not so sure that's the best way to do it, but that is a way to do it, and that's what's been accepted by the council. Then there's this, you know, the Vietnam Memorial by Lim, done in 1982, which was a long time after the war, very long time. But it's nicely done. It is lists of names on the wall, and there's a lot of names there. And I think it's very important to those veterans of that war, because there's a lot of bitterness in that. But this was done well. I'm not actually using these, I could do, but I'm more looking at New Orleans and New York. But anyway, so in China, this was a very good one for an earthquake. Very expensive, but you do get that feeling that the earth has been broken, you're down inside, and it creates a bit of a stop-look feel. This is a very good one. I've been to Berlin, and I actually didn't go here because someone had told me it's very upsetting. And I actually didn't want to. I was on a holiday, and I was like, I actually don't want to go there and be dragged down and feel this. Now I wish I had, but I will go back and do that. But, I mean, oops, this is amazing. I mean, there's almost 3,000 of these stones. So that's what it looks like from the air, which is awesome. And then when you get deeper in there, you know, it's a real feeling of entrapment. That's a very good one. Then this one I have been to, and I am from New York, and I wasn't there for this, but, you know, there were 3,000 deaths, and we shouldn't value a disaster on how many people died, because I think, again, collectively, it's the feeling of it. So what Michael Arad has done, and he has a whole podcast about what he's done, so it's good to listen to. So he was kind of witnessing how New Yorkers responded. And then he actually went out to Washington Square, a public space, one night in the middle of the night, and this is after, about a month after, and he found all these other people standing there in the middle of the night, just silently standing there. And he realized that this has really had a big effect on the people in the city, and a lot of people did die. So he realized this is like a collective feeling. Whatever happens, it has to be done collectively. Like, it's not just decision makers saying, oh, we need a memorial. And it has to be done with compassion. So this is something that in Christchurch, the red zone is still, I think they're kind of missing what to do with it, and perhaps not doing it with any compassion. Anyway, so here we have some of the war memorials. So this is World War I. And those wars were horrible. You know, like, we don't want to go back to that. But we don't want to actually forget that, because we need to remember that we're kind of in a time when things aren't particularly great in the world either. But they've left this, and that's good. I mean, it's poisonous. The ground is so toxic because of all the shells. But and this is what they've done. So there's the millions of poppies of people who have died. They've ceramic poppies, and this is Tower of London, and it's like, you know, blood or whatever. I mean, it's lovely. And that's just a natural thing of the land. So then you kind of wonder, has New Orleans done it? Have they taken that experience and collectively portrayed it? This is their memorial, and just these boxes. I just want to, the next slide shows these boxes. So here we have these boxes, right? Which doesn't mean, those names and things, doesn't mean a lot, because this is what was going on. I mean, it was fairly traumatic to the people in the city who, lost their homes, and you know, New Orleans had a lot of problems before anyway, and a lot of racial problems, and you know, but I mean, this is a bit more meaningful than, I don't know who's getting meaning out of these boxes, except for maybe the guys who designed this thing. So here they are in front of a seawall here. And I mean, a lot of people left. 100,000 people had to leave their homes, and they haven't come back. So why is a commemorative landscape important for Christchurch? Because of the people. So these people, the 10,000 people who were displaced. Then we have the Maori, who basically were sadly taken. You know, their land was just all of a sudden carved up, and other people owned it. It was, I'm sure, and then there's writings of how they felt about it, and it's not nice. And then we have these internally displaced people within their own countries. And in 2015, 37 million of them. And then we're talking about the world right now with a lot of people out there who do not have a safe place, and they don't have a place on the land. And then we're talking about the land. So there's the two reasons, really. It's the people and the land. And the land does have a history. So it's got the old history, it's got the earthquake and that recent history. It has been reclaimed by the disaster. So I think it's actually a good thing, but you know, it is sad. And it can heal, land can heal. A landscape can make you feel a hell of a lot better about things. And it is the Tauranga Waiwai, which is your place to stand on the land. So the people in the land and what disaster recovery really is, it really is about the people in the land. So if we're telling ourselves it's about making more money out of that land, or you know, constructing things yes, but we can't forget that, yeah, we're here for these two reasons. And that all the people who visit this should feel that they have a place on the land. And then I also believe it's really important to keep the history of the unpleasantness alive, not just forget about it. So here we have Christchurch. So we've got the sea, and we've got the square where the cathedral is. That's 8 Ks. I'm looking at possibly this site here, which is about halfway, so about 4 Ks to that point. So this is Dallington. Oh, sorry, Dallington on this side of the river, Avonside on this side of the river. We have, you know, really strong communities those were. They were salt of the earth, Shirley Boys High, Avonside Girls. It was a very family-oriented place. And when you read about what it was like growing up in Dallington, I mean, particularly in like the 50s, they just loved it. It was, you know, everyone said it was close to town, it was close to the sea. They had farming, horses, all kinds of things going on, and orchards. And generation after generation, it wasn't just move in and leave. It was a very stable community. I'll just get a bit closer. So the other nice thing about this is that it has this is north. It does have this feeling of like a mother's arms, kind of, you know, you feel kind of safe in here. And this is, I'm sort of thinking, I don't know, I mean, I'm still, but like a viewing, possibly elevated site so you can see where you are, and then creating something in here as well. But it has a nice, cozy feeling in here, and warm. There's a bridge, which is good, because one of the problems we have is kind of getting across the river. I mean, it is a boundary, and it does, the roads are particularly bad at dissecting, and as Jane Jacobs was saying about, you know, it sort of gives you this border, and it can make a landscape more interesting, but it can also impede people getting into the landscape. But it is nice. There's a bridge here, and it's not to say that another bridge cannot be built. This is what it looks like now. So again, we had a lot of people, about 2,000 houses in these two little pockets, and now there's nothing. I'm sorry about this is like a blown up photo. But it's very green at the moment. Yeah, thank you. These are some photos from Matthew. So, and very broken, but you know, we still have a beautiful river, and we have a hell of a lot of trees. There's 30,000 trees that have been GPSed in here. All these, so this would have been someone's garden. You know, it is very surreal. But again, it's a sad, blank, vast place with incredibly good soil. Incredibly good soil. And it's moist, you know, it's unlike North Canterbury, which is about to crumble from drought. So here we have two rivers, obviously. We have the Heathcote and the Avon. Now this is my little pocket. Now this is a NIWA image. There's a lot of water in Christchurch. I mean, it is seriously low. It's a wetland, and I feel like, you know, trying to sell wetlands to developers. This is where the developer developed a whole bunch of houses in Bexley. So we're, you know, this is eventually when the water table goes up, which it will, we have a lot of neighborhoods that still are people living there, because luckily they've reclaimed all this, but this is still out there for residents to live in. And so I'm sort of saying, yeah, in here, to do something interesting. I have ideas, but I don't want to get I don't want to get too in detail yet, because I've just sort of come to this idea about displaced people and commemorative landscapes. So here we have the square. There's the cathedral, poor thing. Here's just the river, and that's kind of a cool thing. And then we have the pier, and it is really nice to get, you know, if you're in the city and you could get out here, it's a wonderful feeling to get to the sea and to feel that feeling. And this is just a cool idea of houses that are actually on little boats, like little walkers. which potentially might have to happen at some point. But again, it's not just about building a memorial park. This is the Princess Di thing. Because I think you have to keep that element of, I mean, this is a sad thing, and we're remembering a wonderful woman, but it's more about, you have to tell the entire story. Like, you really need to go back, do the whole, what happened. The Maori arrived, and they have a place on the land. They lost their place on the land. It was this nice sort of food gathering place, which worked. We had a modern, we have some earthquake, we have a lot of liquefaction. People lost their places as well. So there's a lot to be told, and I think it should be told, the whole thing. So do we tell it with building a really expensive thing? I mean, like in New York, that was a lot of money. This is in Sydney, is the War Memorial, which is lovely. But potentially Christchurch doesn't even have the funds to do this. So we can tell it with the landscape and just doing it in a way that, like I said, just people leave it feeling better. And that's it.
Okay, thanks very much, Andrea.
I'm interested in, I think there's a really nice sense of feeling about, the range of projects that you're looking at is really interesting. I'm kind of curious, going back to the Christchurch proposed memorial, like you started to talk about, I got a sense that a range of the projects we're looking at were working for you, but I didn't understand how the Christchurch one was not working. In particular, this
thing?
Yeah, just the specific aspects of it that you felt weren't sensitive to what has happened. Is it too early? Is it about its location, or what particular analysis are you describing that suggests that it's not dealing with this issue as you would like?
What I'm worried about this thing is that a visitor would come here and go to the river. This is by the town hall, basically. It's in the CBD. Visit it and say, oh yeah, okay. And because they don't know any, I mean, I would go there and look for my friend Lisa's name. But if you're just a visitor, what you say, well, okay, nice. We can have a seat, let's have lunch. I think, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I think it had to be done, and I think, there was a lot of pressure to do something quickly, or just they needed to do something, and this is what they've done. But it's not to say that a bigger, more encompassing landscape, just a little further out of the city, that takes you away and puts you there on the land and gives you a different feeling. Like, it's not just about the people who died, it's actually about the 10,000 people who went off. And where are they?
I mean, do you think that there is a critical difference between commemorating some human catastrophe, like human-provoked catastrophe, than nature-provoked catastrophe? Like, it's a lot more empathy. If you have 9/11 in your head, there are these people, this catastrophe, but Mother Nature, okay, another village in Italy wiped out. Okay.
Well, I think that, and I've been thinking a lot about that. I mean, that's war, and that's natural. That's war. That's war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's natural. I mean, that's natural.
And then the other thing, do you think that the size of the thing, of the actual project, matters?
The site or
the size, the overall dimension of the project matters to actually create that feel of
Yeah.
remembrance?
So the first one
Is
I
New
think there's a
Orleans not
difference.
big enough, really, to remember the 20,000 people that have, or 120,000 that will never go back to
yeah.
New Orleans?
I think I think what it should be is these 10,000 people first, but more importantly, I think it's time that we actually just face up to the fact that this really isn't even our land. And that's not popular. I mean, Christchurch is very conservative. There's, but this is like a denial. And at least we have the land tribunals going on, which is good. But then I think we also need to face up to these problems too. And here we are in New Zealand. It's like we're in the safest place in the world, and we should wake up every morning and just say, "Thank goodness I'm not being bombed." It's just, but we don't do that. And I mean, I'm not saying that you go to this place and just say, "Oh, thank God, we're safe," but why
But you
not?
are actually
Why
saying.
not sell it to the world? Like, you want to see what the safest place looks like? Well, we've got this little pocket in the safest town in New Zealand that's, the safest of the safest of the safest. Why don't you come and see what that's like? There's a lot here. So I need to do a little more thinking about it.
The other thing that kind of you seem to put a little bit of emphasis on it, and can you go to the slide that you show the Niwa with the water?
Yeah. Oh no, that was. Where is that? Is it here? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that one.
No, the previous
The-
one.
the
The one
very
that
big
you
one?
see your side, and your
here.
side, yeah, which is that little
It's
cul-de-sac
yeah.
formed by the river. I mean, is there fair that you propose to use the driest place and the better soil
Yeah.
place in the picture for what is
I know.
what is value for money?
Why not put it here, or why not put it here?
correct?
I
Yeah,
know.
what is value for money? I mean, if it is like has to be
Yeah.
New York is real prime estate,
I know.
there.
8 acres.
So is
yeah.
are you doing the same? Like the most expensive little cul-de-sac, the river, the dry area. So
I know.
I
But
go and put a
maybe-
memorial there.
I agree, and I think maybe it needs to be that, because we need to face up to, you need to do it well and not have it compromised and make it important. Like, we have chosen the best land because this is a really important thing to do.
Yeah,
Because-
but then at the same time you kind of argue that, does it need to be done with an expensive building? So
Yeah. I know.
it's a little bit of kind of,
I know.
you are playing
I know.
trickiness there.
I know. But the thing about this is, sure, this horseshoe lake, it's quite a long way out. I mean, here we have this frame of the CBD, Hagley Park, the square. This is still Fitzgerald Avenue here. So really, this is about halfway. It is prime real estate. But you know what would be wrong is to then say to some developer, "Oh, go ahead, rebuild." Because what about all the, it's kind of, I mean, you can say that about the whole red zone, but don't you want to somewhere say, we respect that this was where our people were, well, first the Maori were gathering food through here, and then secondly, there were all these families who were 3 generations born and bred, and we don't want to just build new and glaze it over. We're going to remember that this happened, and
I guess I'm kind of questioning this location, just challenging it in the sense that there's obviously that the effects of liquefaction and those water areas, and have you considered the actual water areas as being, well, for example, that that particular development site that wasn't meant to be built on,
Absolutely.
but got through, and what that represents in terms of inappropriate behaviour or social condition or outcome, and whether a location like that isn't closer to the heart of some of the, challenging the economic, political issues that also underlie the
And also
impact.
Horseshoe Lake.
I know, in here,
Yeah.
there's a lot of history in here too.
Yeah, because is it a like the landscape? Is it the water table, the moisture? Is it the
Liquefaction.
or on land? Like you're looking at a site it's above the waterway
Yeah,
at the
floating.
moment. Yeah, I'm just questioning.
Yeah.
Where is the boundary of your site? And the other thing I think about too is this idea that the occurrence, obviously there was a central area that had a lot of impact, but the description that I've heard is it was like losing teeth, here and there. And so again, is the kind of identification of this landscape kind of a much more spot location?
You mean,
The impact, in terms of it happened on maybe one side of Christchurch, but it was kind of a spot in the portals, like it didn't happen to every spot, but it was kind of at weak points or
well,
something
it's
about
interesting.
that.
Like,
But it's the whole, you have some episode where you describe it, it's the whole area all along the river. It's huge,
Yeah.
it's enormous.
Yeah, and that's the liquefaction area, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's-
mainly. Yeah.
what happened? There was this side sank, so it's like one side went down,
Yeah.
and then the other side kind of just stayed the same.
Yeah.
But it jiggled, and it lost so much.
Yeah.
So much matter
Yeah.
came up out, and then they took it all away and dumped it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people are building their houses, and it's so funny. I have a photo of it, but I should put it. A meter high around these little areas. It looks bizarre, like just outside the red zone. And then it's next to a house that is fine, but it's literally on the ground. This
Yeah.
other house.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
there's
what's
sort of
going to happen to that?
top
But
level. Yeah. So
I know. I mean, I've been.
So the question,
I guess I'm just questioning the location.
Yeah.
Like the location might be right, but I'm just kind of expanding it momentarily to just ask, and it might reflect back on how you deal with that site.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that Andrea and I have been talking about, because I actually went down there in Christmas
Yeah.
and spent a week working with a photographer, and we photographed the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
I kind of know it quite well.
Yeah.
It's so huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good area
Yeah.
too.
And I understand that to actually take the whole expanse it's a too big a
Oh no,
thing to
1,000 acres is way too big.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess the thing maybe Andrea didn't explain is that the strategy that the council adopted is essentially
Yeah, they're mowing it.
they're mowing it. Basically,
That's it.
it's an enormous program of council.
2.6 million a year.
Yeah.
That would be a wonderful critique, wouldn't it?
And
Everyone wants a job.
The super lawnmower.
yeah, and so actually, like when I was there,
Yeah.
parts had obviously been mowing for like 2 years already,
Yeah.
and they were like golf. It was like a golf
Golf
course,
course.
and it was essentially a kind of, this is what we're talking about, is a way of kind of forgetting it
Yeah.
through
So,
normalising it and
can
turning it into a
you-
park.
Yes.
Can you do a modest remembrance project?
Yeah, I think you can. I think
Well,
if you,
is mowing 1,000 acres of grass
yeah,
the modest of the most New Zealand modest approach
Yeah, that's a
to remembrance
political
it probably is.
on your
commentary.
face?
Well, yeah.
You know? I mean, it's like if it is sitting there, fence, mow, is that,
Is that it?
well, I don't know. You
I
tell
know.
me.
Had they
I
already
mean,
done it?
Have they already done what? Come up with a
That-
decision.
Park, they've done
Oh.
That the remembrance thing.
And we just wander around and all feel a little bit.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
know.
haven't been there. I haven't been there. I kind of, you presented this one, New Orleans,
Yeah.
and it kind of feels that you are dealing with, or it feels to me that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you presented like, oh, it's not big enough to be, gutsy, to make you feel, but 9/11 is like this hole on the thing, the black cascade, all the kind of emotive thing.
Yeah.
These, little boxes, fuck, is not.
I know the thing about this
the
is
1,000 acres of lawn, is that not
Christchurch.
big and godly enough to actually remember respectfully that it was a city here
I'm also
in a
questioning.
Kiwi way?
Yeah.
But before we keep going, coffee order.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus!
The most important
Come on, let's
thing, isn't
forget
it?
Flat
this.
white.
Just do coffee.
Too hard.
Flat white.
Flat white. Flat white.
Thank you.
What do you want?
Sure, black, please. Mika.
So yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You need to kind of
keep going.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
decide what you are doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think
The whole discourse is too emotive, really. I mean, we are making our projects, but you are not taking sides.
I
need
can I,
to
can
take
I just say, there's two things I'm questioning, like this thing about New Zealand being safe, and I guess in the area of, and also the history. The history starts with the Maori. It seems to me you haven't taken history back far enough. And also the concept of New Zealand safe. The interesting thing about New Zealand is this earthquake. It's unstable ground. This is the thing that is one of the unique qualities of our landscape, is how it's been formed.
Yeah.
The geology of our
And will
environment.
continue to be.
Exactly. And so I'm kind of interested to see how you grapple with that geological kind of response. Yeah, and the instability that is about, and people in place and how they, I guess they relate to each other. So there's all this cultural layers on top, the families and the Maori and the Moriori and,
Well, I asked one of my sons who didn't, because I didn't do Maori in high school because I didn't go here, but the Taniwha, and I said, do you think that maybe that whole Taniwha thing, that whole myth was an earthquake? Do you think that maybe the Maori were actually experiencing an earthquake and they thought, what is that? Oh, it's a giant sea monster and it's coming, and I'm like, well, it's possible. But you're right, there, before man, there was just this land, and weren't we all part of the world anyway? We were all one piece of land, and then we floated off, and here we are down in the Southern Ocean. So, I think that the whole thing about this whole red zone and how I've been going around in a circle with it is it's just the same. What do you do with this land? And nothing really feels right to me until I sort of thought, you know what? We can't just grass it over and mow it. That isn't. It's not right because there's
But
so
if
much
it
to
is
be
not
told.
right, if it is not right, you need to explain why it's not right
Yeah.
with a convincing argument. Because at the moment you are not explaining that.
You don't think by just saying we need to respect the land. We need to look at. Where did I put? Oh.
the land's not respecting us. It's just
Yeah.
cracking up all over the place. It's
Well, the land is doing what the land
exactly.
should do. The land is boss.
Yeah.
We are on it.
Well, we are boss for a century kind of thing. Few bulldozers here, reclamation there. We can keep it there. And the other thing that I really like that picture, but then you are swapping here and here. Like you have a completely ephemeral picture there with a highly charged emotive thing, really big, so really impressive visually, and you do kind of at the same time, we cannot do, I don't think that the modesty of the current proposal for the remembrance earthquake, is kind of modest, doesn't, so
It's
you need to
traditional.
kind of place yourself out there and establish the parameters of the argument. You are kind
Well, here's
of...
the question. Who am I trying to convince? Am I trying to convince Jerry Brownlee? Am I trying to convince
I
Don't
don't know.
bother, don't bother.
Am I trying to convince the collective group of people who really should be making the decision because it's actually,
Convince them of what?
Yeah.
what we should do with this 1,000 acre. I mean, or what we should even do with a teeny piece of the 1,000 acres.
They have their solution, don't they? Which is mow it.
Yeah.
They bought it. It cost $1.5 billion, and
The government bought it. We bought it. You guys
Yeah,
all
we've
own it.
insurance,
We own
the
it.
earthquake commission.
Yeah, we all own it.
Yeah.
And we fenced it, and we've got the contractors, and we're going to mow it, and we're going to turn it into a park. It is a park.
People walk the river. They're still walking the river.
So you're saying basically Andrea should give up the idea that your project is maybe competing with theirs and they might prefer yours. You should simply do your own thing and don't care whether anybody pays any attention.
I think what Juan's saying is she needs to develop a critique of that.
Yeah, critique.
Well,
Yeah.
So what is the problem with the council
Approach to the land.
Yeah, because they'll say, we've turned this into a park. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're spending $3 million a year on the
Which
park,
is quite cheap.
Yeah, it is really.
for $1,000.
For
And
park
really,
maintenance.
I haven't been in Christchurch, I haven't been in the thing, but the whole kind of mental idea of having a devastated area, 1,000 acres, mow, is kind of quite impressive to me as a, if somebody comes and say, okay, new memorial is going to be you fence with number 7 wire, number 8 wire, 7 buttons, sorry, 7 wires and buttons, which is New Zealand intrinsic white men.
Yeah.
You fence 1,000 acres and you keep it
Yeah.
mow,
Immaculate.
and then the trees that were there, you are not going to cut the old mandarin tree and the old
They're leaving
Fijoa
it, yeah.
thing. I mean, that
No, they
is the
should torch them.
ultimate.
They should torch them because the real history of the landscape of this country is actually burning down 3/4 of the forest and then mowing the grass forever.
But on
But
paper,
That's the real-
that's the part.
Putting
Yeah.
it-
That's the
animals
real
on it.
story of New Zealand, you
Well,
know.
the real story of this is it was a swan.
Yeah.
It
Of this
really
place,
looked-
but of all of I'm talking about all of New Zealand.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what the humans
it
have
really
done.
looked.
on paper, what I'm putting towards
Yeah.
sounds pretty bloody good for a memorial to me. If you kind of cross my accent and get a good script writer to present this memorial for Christchurch, we are going to do this. Is pretty, conceptually a pretty good Kiwi related memorial.
You mean get the
Super
guys out with
modest.
the diggers and mow it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they're doing,
Super modest.
What they're doing at the moment.
White men,
Yeah.
respecting the people, kind of, you plant the trees, so you haven't got rid of,
We're going to keep them.
the lady remembers her Fijoa tree and goes there and knows exactly with wayfinding that this is my little tree that I planted there, whatever, 50 years ago. So,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true. You get your trees.
The roads are still there.
So are there layers of traces
Well, that's-
left or scars?
No, the foundations of the houses are gone.
I-
But the little roads
Yeah,
are
but-
there.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
The driveways are gone too.
When I went there, the site that
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was what it was like.
that Andrea was talking about was Ableside was they were at the last stages, and it was this program. And they had all the machinery there. So the program was, come in, take the houses away, take
Yeah.
all the outbuildings away, take the drives away, take the foundations away, and you can see from my
Yeah,
photos.
that's it.
Yeah, you can see they lay topsoil, shred the topsoil.
Yeah,
grass
that's
in
it.
you know.
They've
They know what they're
eradicated
doing.
the whole
Yeah,
evidence.
yeah.
So
No, not the whole evidence, because the trees are still there.
the trees, the trees,
But
the
actually
greenery.
what happens is, if you go over the river, because basically everyone's house, you can sort of see, in the old ones, you can kind of see the house lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like you can see
Yeah,
the
that.
house lots, and you can see
The trees
plants
around the
on
edges.
side, around the edges.
That's nice.
But what happens is, as they start to keep mowing it, the
Mm.
guys take shortcuts
Yeah.
with the game mowers, and so anything that's not
Yes,
a
we
A
can.
tree
Gets cut.
disappears.
Yes.
cut, and so you gradually start to all this little stuff here.
Yeah, this is grown.
Erasing.
You start losing it, and then when you look at that on the other side of the river, it's just the big trees that are left, and so it all starts to become.
It does look like a golf course.
And you lose the traces of where the houses were. So that this is what Andrea's. I'm sorry to put words in your mouth, but this is kind of what Andrea's saying is it's being the park is erasing.
Yeah.
Is
The
erasing.
history.
Erasing that story, yeah.
But it's
So
not
that's a
just
good
story.
argument to shut me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
basically we are
Yeah.
slowly erasing history
Yeah,
here.
and so the
So
question
that
is,
shuts me up. Now, next thing is
Yeah,
like,
is-
what is your position?
yeah,
Well, so we go into people's moral, place and say, is it right to do this? Do you have any thought of, the people who lost their place on the land anywhere along the line, either the Maori, the Pakeha, and even the people who are losing their place right now this very minute?
But they
Do we
would
have any
say-
thought for that?
But they would say, we're keeping it.
Yeah.
Well, here's all the trees. We're looking after it. We're maintaining your
Correct.
place. So you need a kind of position on that.
Why don't I just suggest a Syrian refugee camp, and they can all come and live there and have the
If
fruit?
they have not moved into the 1500
That would go over
abandoned
like a-
villages in
Well,
Spain.
this is
Tell
what,
me where-
That's the
this
thing,
is
is
what,
they're
what you could
Yeah.
contribute to this whole debate, Andrea. I think you have given us today a very kind of a personal take on the whole thing, and a very candid one. The word honest is in your research question. We don't get often students who put the word honest or honesty in their research question. So
Oh, we'll go back to that.
I would suggest that you stick to that word and really
Yeah.
follow your
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. I don't know when was the last time that I saw the word honest or honesty or candid in a research question.
Don't
We-
worry, I'm going to knock it out of it.
with the yeah, in these POMO times, we don't believe in a particular truth or honesty. So what I see really as a great potential in this project is that you can bring this global perspective. You have said several times in the presentation that there are other bigger tragedies around the world. There always have been.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a way bigger time perspective than what happened 5 years ago. So you could make this project global and its significance and meaning, and you could make it to commemorate 50 million years rather than 5 years. You could do it. And I think Christchurch needs it because Christchurch is so hopelessly parochial. Let's say that here because hopefully nobody from Christchurch.
No.
even if you were from Christchurch, you'd
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
And so my point is Christchurch has just, you're comparing this to New York. 9/11 had a global significance. It's easy to
Right.
kind of look at global meaning of that. But in here it looks like it's more difficult. But Christchurch has just squandered this opportunity to become the most interesting city in the world.
I know that.
Christchurch had the chance to build the city of the 21st century, super resilient and whatever that means. It hasn't. It's just rebuilding the city of the 20th century. It's tragic. So you have an opportunity to teach them a lesson and tell them, guys, you could have made this really, global. So what about Aleppo these days, right? So all these things could be packaged into their personal, real, but still little tragedies actually. And without offending them, show them, open the windows and broaden perspective, both in space and time. In space, in terms of saying, hey, we got the global problem of displaced people. It's a global one. It's not just
Oh,
Canterbury.
yeah. What,
Right?
I can't understand.
Okay.
And,
You need to-
and in terms
Sorry.
of time, it's not just the last 5 years. It's the several 100 years of destroying the ecosystem. This is what the Homo sapiens have been doing for centuries. So there's a bigger story there, and this is a lesson now from nature.
We should definitely have a
It
beer.
really,
All right,
it
all right,
really
all right.
could be a very, very,
Yeah.
very big story. And
I like
again,
it.
Christchurch so
Yeah.
needs it.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah,
That
so
is-
parochial.
mapping.
It's better now.
It's a great
Like
challenge.
phenomenal.
So just
It's
one
a lot
more-
better. There's
And
a
you
lot
seem
more
to be
young
able to
people
do
that.
that as an immigrant, somebody who has connections to New York, which is a kind of, you know, a symbol of a global city. You have this ability. You're a rare person who has this ability to see globally and locally.
All right, just and this is a fantastic conversation, but just one more question, and we have to wrap it up.
And I think this just to wrap it up properly.
Properly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But-
Okay.
But I think that is what you have to focus. Within that, the presentation you gave, spanning out to who is the rightful owner of land and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that's what you're commemorating, and I don't think that's a commemoration at all. It's a debate. It's a big public debate, and if you want to take on a public debate as commemoration, that might be your big global, local kind of. But I go to one of your case studies there with Maya Lin. What she did with that memorial was entirely change the way you think about memorials.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, it was
82, I know.
and at the time it was, you know, especially right there. If you just wander around the corner, you know, there are a dozen little brass soldiers walking there, carrying their buddies, and it's all. This is, you know, the stoic soldier saving the world and all this sort of stuff. And she totally reframed that and said, "This is not a heroism. You know, this is not.
We should be ashamed.
This is not what this is about. Going 6 feet under, walking that walk down to that depth, and then looking at yourself reflected back in that wall of names, and then taking a turn straight towards the monument. And there's intense kind of, you know, emotional, symbolic kind of thinking about it. Anyone that goes there is going to go, wow."
Which is what we want in Christchurch.
Okay.
We want to get them there
So-
to look at
But
themselves.
it's, she's done that already. You don't want to do that again. What she did was change the way people thought about a memorial, a space like this, even an event. And I think we're still doing the same thing with these kinds of natural disasters. She did that for wars. We're still doing the same thing with natural disasters.
Yeah.
We're either just rebuilding, you know, the city as normal, or we're looking for, you know, okay, well, maybe we'll put some more modern technologies in this building, or it's just a building form that we're thinking about. Whereas I think what you're thinking about, or at least where you're directed, is a complete shift in the way we think about
The
memorials.
landscape.
And maybe your
Remembrance.
earlier comment about, you know, 1,000 acres or whatever it was, 10,000 acres, that's too big. Maybe it's not too big. Maybe it should be that big.
The whole thing should be a rural park.
That
Yeah.
it's
So
just,
that shift could be about this global perspective.
Exactly.
Every local environmental event these days actually is a global event. You said 10,000 people were booted from this place.
Yeah.
You know what's happening next in the 20 or 30 years? 9 billion people might be booted from the planet.
Yes.
It can happen. We now have evidence that that is likely to happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, what about that?
Okay.
And then,
we're gonna
can I say one more thing?
I think we need a team
kill-
effort on it. I don't think this should just be me. I think everyone should work on this together.
Can you kill the first picture? That mirror image.
Kill it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Yeah,
You don't like that?
beautiful picture. Yeah, that was.
What is that about?
all right.
Well,
anyway.
you go in there. No, you go
The
in
edge.
there, and all of a sudden you're in this place. That's.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just having
Thank
fun.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Discussion.